What is up, guys, and welcome to your no-nonsense guide on how to play Bucky in Marvel Rivals. As per usual, we'll go over all of his abilities and what they can do, and then I'll go over all the tips and tricks that I would usually do in a typical game. Starting us off, we have Bucky's main attack, his Rotterdam, which is a straight line projectile that generates a spell field upon impact, which pretty much he shoots a bullet and it has splash damage. It's a projectile speed of 180 meters a second. The actual bullet itself does 75 damage and then has splash damage of 65. There's damage fall off at 20 meters, decreasing to 60% at 40 meters. It's a fire rate of 2.5 rounds per second, but only has 3 bullets in the chamber. You can get a critical hit when the bullet hits, but not on the splash damage. And it has a special mechanic that enemies that take damage from the projectile will no longer receive damage from the spell field. So it will take damage from the direct hit, but it won't take damage from the splash damage. Then we have Bucky's bionic hook, which is able to grab onto an enemy and then drag them towards you, but also does splash damage to anyone behind the hook. It has a 80 meters per second projectile speed and can be charged from 0.5 seconds to 4 seconds. Depending on how long you charge it up is how far the grapple will go. The initial hit is 15 damage and the splash damage is 20. It has a cooldown of 8 seconds. Next of Bucky's abilities is Tainted Voltage. Charge up and launch a powerful electrical punch with the bionic arm in the target direction, dealing damage to enemies within range and slowing them. This ability can knock down flying heroes. It has 100 meters per second projectile speed and does 55 damage on contact. It will slow down a person by minus 35% and the slow duration is 2 seconds. It can also go through multiple enemies as well and has a 6-second cooldown. Trooper's Fist is Bucky's next ability, which allows him to dash forward and grab enemies and then launch them up using an uppercut. It gives you 30 meters per second average speed and travels a distance of 9 meters. The seize damage, so the grabbing of the enemies, is 25 damage, and the knockback damage, so the uppercut, is 65. It has a cooldown of 12 seconds and has a range of length of 4.5 meters, width of 4.5 meters, and height of 2 meters. Then we finally have Bucky's ultimate Kraken Impact, which allows him to leap into the air and dash forward and slam down with his bionic arm. Deals damage to enemies in range, marking them for culling, and if you're a marked enemy, if your health drops below 20%, you instantly perish, recharging Bucky's bionic arm for another Kraken Impact. It does 100 damage per hit, and the culling lasts for 5 seconds, and as mentioned, it needs to be below 20% for them to instantly die. My first tip for Bucky is knowing when to play distance. Bucky plays really well at long and short distance, but as I mentioned earlier, he has a damage drop off at 20 meters and down to 60% at 40 meters, so you don't want to be playing him too long range like a sniper. This is the reason why he has the bionic hook and also the punch and the voltage hit, is you want to be getting people in close, finishing them off, but you also want to be being niggly and you want to be hitting them from a distance just to cause trouble. You want them to come to you. You can then use your hook to drag them in. You then can combo with your uppercut, with your voltage hit, and then you can finish them off with your bullets. You got to keep in mind that you only have 3 bullets. Unless you've got a rocket on your team like we do here, which gives us unlimited bullets, and you're stood in the field, which I'm not, you will need to keep an eye on your ammo. Remember, you have 3 shots, so you need to be doing combos of uppercuts, voltage hits, hooks, and bullets to finish off enemies. Yes, you are ideal about taking out tanks, but you're not going to be the main tank killer. You're going to be taking out the healers and the other duelists to make sure that your team is being effective. My second tip is using Bucky's uppercut not always as an aggression tactic. Bucky's uppercut can be used to get away from a fight as well. Yes, it does damage. Yes, you want to be using it to deal damage. However, if you get into a fight where you know you need to escape, you can use Bucky's uppercut to get onto high ground or get into cover and then sort yourself out and ready for another fight. There's no point holding on to the uppercut if you know that you're then going to have to get yourself out of trouble, but you know your situations and know when to use it. If you feel like you're getting into a one-on-one with, say, Iron Fist, who Bucky will normally lose against, you can use your uppercut to get yourself out of there, to maybe regroup with your team, who can then help you take out Iron Fist, maybe with like a tank or another duelist. Making sure knowing when to use your ult is also ideal as well. You got to keep in mind that every time you kill an enemy, you will get another usage of your ult back as well. So being able to pop your ult and know that you can get kills is vital. Maybe wait until you know you've taken out a few people with it or a person with it, and then at least then you can then use your damage to be able to kind of whittle people down, pop your ult, and then start taking people out individually. You want to be aiming for individuals that you know, one, has culling on them so that if they drop below 20% they'll die, but also as well you want to be aiming for their squishies. The distance for the ult is really far, so you can leap into their back line, so if you kill them you could then use it to then get out of danger as well. So keep that in mind, that you can use it to go into the fight but also escape the fight if you need to. And finally, just because I know Bucky will be an interesting pick, know when to pick him. He is a very interesting duelist, however he will not always suit every situation. An example of this was someone telling me to go Bucky to do anti-air. Anti-air is getting rid of your flyers. Personally, Punisher is better at anti-air, so know who to pick. Bucky can be fun and is very, very fun to play like I did with this game, however know when to pick him. If you need to switch off, don't be that person that sits on Bucky just because you know he's got a gun and you can play distance. If you can switch off to someone, i.e. play Punisher instead of Bucky if you want to play a shooter, just know when to pick him and know that you're playing him to enjoy him because he's not always going to fit every situation. And that was my no-nonsense guide on how to play Bucky in Marvel Rivals. What do you think? Have you got any more tips that you could give me or the community that could help us out playing Bucky? Or do you feel I covered enough to be able to get started with him? If you do, make sure you drop a comment down below, and also let me know who I should do a guide on next. If you enjoyed the content, please make sure you drop it a like, it really does help. And if you want to see more Marvel Rivals content like this, please make sure you drop a subscribe as well. Other than that, thank you very much for watching.